It's over. It's finally over. The Cowboys can finally put a nightmare of a season behind them that, despite hope until the last week, went nowhere close to what we expected. Mass injury to the O-line, 4 different starting quarterbacks, and one of the worst Cowboy defenses I've ever seen that wound up with 6 wins and the 10th pick in this year's draft. Speaking of that defense, the first move of many was made with the firing of Mike Nolan. Today I want to share my thoughts on Nolan, what went wrong, and why the move had to be made. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're an OG, welcome back. Over the next few months, I'll be talking about a lot of different topics, such as best player available versus need, a win-loss projection going into next year, and the return of Blow the Whistle, and a lot more you're not going to want to miss. Also, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like and sub button to stay connected. Now, let's get to it. For me to understand how we got here, firing a coordinator after just one season, it's important to understand where it started. Jerry and Steven said last year when McCarthy was introduced how important it was for him to pick his own staff. On paper, he picked a good staff that was well respected with plenty of experience and no one to call the defense. Early on it was said they wouldn't be as predictable as years past and would have a lot more hybrid looks and the players would do more with their talent. Again, in practice, that sounded good. However, if you ask me, that's exactly what the problem was. From very early on, there was problems with communication, with players not knowing or not being able to relay their assignments until before the snap. And just in my opinion, the lack of communication is what caused a lot of distrust between players and the coaching staff. And that same distrust caused players like Darryl Worley to freelance coverages. Whether or not you think it's fair, a breakdown in communication and trust between player and coach will always get redirected back to the coach. And since somebody has to take the L, Mike Nolan was the easy target. And as far as redirecting blame back to the coaches, the players themselves had no problem doing just that, with many anonymous reports saying the scheme was too complicated. For me, it's not a good enough excuse, and the players do bear a lot of the responsibility, but it's easier to change the coach than it is the whole defense. And despite the scheme being more simplified, the same problems lingered. A personal beef of mine with Nolan was playing soft zone coverage on second down, giving up nice gains to opposing offenses, and manageable third downs. Lastly, with all that said, questionable soft zones, bad communication, and internal drama, the last thing that went wrong for Nolan was one of the biggest, if not the biggest issue, and that's a lack of accountability from the players. The primary offender for this is Xavier Woods. For those that remember, in a key spot in the Browns game this year, the Cowboys having to get the ball back, he puts on a horrible effort in pursuit, and then a response to that says, "You don't go 100% on every play." He would say that and give this effort against Baltimore just weeks later. I can give a similar story about Darian Thompson or Dontari Poe soaking up playing time over Neville Gallimore. And I couldn't talk about the defense without mentioning Dalen Smith. Because all that I mentioned, that's why it went wrong for Mike Nolan and why the move had to be made. And breaking news in the middle of making this video, Quinn is now the new defensive coordinator. I'll admit, I'm a little apprehensive and was hoping for somebody more well known for 3-4 and heavy blitz packages. But I've also been told that he mixes up his fronts. So, a major plus. One thing I do hope is different, that he sends more pressure than Nolan did. I had said this a while back, but I really can't get over how infrequent the Cowboys set pressure versus teams that blitz at the highest rate, and how many of those teams were in the playoffs. I also took it a step further in saying that the possible shift in philosophy will force him to place more emphasis on corner and a versatile safety. If Quinn is going to be more aggressive, and I really hope so, that might lead to more forced turnovers and shorter fields for the offense. Again, at first the idea doesn't sit well with me, but given how terrible last year was, there's nowhere to go but up, and hopefully Quinn is the right guy for the job. To wrap this up, firing Mike Nolan will have a lasting impact on the roster, and with 3 starters in the secondary hitting free agency, the group is sure to look different. Long story short, no defense is bottom tier by 1 or 2 mistakes or a couple accidents, but by many. And that's why I got too spicy in Dallas for Hot Sauce Mike. I want want to thank all you guys for watching this video. If you liked it, hit that like and sub button. As always, Cowboys up. Peace.